Sophia, wait. Marcus Wellington's voice cut through the evening air as he watched his housekeeper hurry down the mansion's front steps, shopping bags in both hands. She turned back, her blonde hair catching the porch light. Yes, Mr. Wellington. Did I forget something? He studied her face, searching for signs of guilt. Those bags, what's in them? Sophia's grip tightened on the handles. Just some groceries I picked up during lunch. Is there a problem? You've been leaving early a lot lately. Family emergencies, you said. My mother is sick. I've told you this, Marcus. He stepped closer. And you need more money. I heard you on the phone yesterday. Sophia's cheeks flushed. I don't understand what you're asking me. I'm not asking. I'm telling you I know something's going on. For a moment, they stood in tense silence. Sophia adjusted her bags and lifted her chin. If you don't trust me, Mr. Wellington, perhaps you should find someone else to clean your house. She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing on the pavement. Marcus watched her disappear around the corner, his jaw clenched. Back inside his sterile mansion, Marcus poured himself a scotch and stared out at the Seattle skyline. The house felt like a fortress, which was exactly how he designed it. After learning that money made everyone a potential enemy, his phone buzzed. David Chun, his assistant and only real friend. Any luck with a background check on Sophia? Marcus asked without greeting. Clean as a whistle. But Marcus, you're being paranoid again. She's worked for you for 8 months without incident. Remember Jennifer? Clean background, too. Still walked away with my grandmother's jewelry. That was 3 housekeepers ago and 2 girlfriends ago. You can't live like this forever. Marcus ended the call and walked to his home office. Security monitors showed empty hallways and pristine rooms. Everything in its place. Everything controlled. Everything lonely. He opened his laptop and pulled up Sophia's employment file. Sophia Morales, 29. References checked. Social Security verified. But there were gaps. Evening activities unaccounted for. That phone call yesterday in rapid Spanish, where he caught the words, Mazdier, doubt more money. Then there was the receipt he'd found in her jacket pocket when he'd offered to hang it up. $500 wired to Honduras. When he'd asked about it, she'd stammered something about family and quickly changed the subject. Marcus pulled up his security footage from the past week. There was Sophia arriving at 8, working efficiently through his house. But at lunch, she'd spent 20 minutes browsing expensive jewelry websites on her phone. Diamond earrings, tennis bracelets, things that cost more than he paid her in 6 months. The pieces formed a familiar pattern. They always started small, arriving late, leaving early, mysterious phone calls. Then came the bigger moves. Missing items, forged checks, empty bank accounts. His phone buzzed with a text. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Sophia. Marcus set down his glass. Working late where? Doing what? He'd given her the evening off. He grabbed his keys and headed for the garage. His black Mercedes would blend into Seattle traffic perfectly. Sophia took the bus. He'd followed that routine before to ensure she got home safely. But tonight, he'd find out where she really went after work. The evening was crisp, and Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he drove towards Sophia's usual bus stop. He told himself this was about protecting his assets, about learning from past mistakes, about being smart instead of naive. But as he spotted Sophia's blonde braid boarding the 47 bus, shopping bag still in her hands, Marcus wondered if he was about to uncover another betrayal or if he was finally losing his mind to paranoia. Either way, tonight he'd know the truth. Marcus kept 3 cars back as the bus wound through Seattle's evening traffic. His hands gripped the steering wheel. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool October air. Every red light felt like an eternity as he watched Sophia's silhouette through the bus windows. The bus stopped in Pioneer Square, and Sophia stepped off, still carrying those shopping bags. Marcus parked across the street and watched her walk toward a rundown building with faded Spanish lettering on the front. His pulse quickened. This was it. The moment he'd catch her in whatever scheme she was running. Sophia pushed through glass doors beneath a sign that read Centro Esperanza. Marcus frowned. A community center. He crept closer, staying in the shadows. Through the large windows, he could see Sophia setting down her bags, and embracing an elderly woman. Then she moved to the front of a room filled with about 20 older adults, all holding notebooks and pencils. "Good evening, everyone," Sophia's voice carried through the thin walls. "Tonight, we're going to practice ordering food at restaurants." Marcus blinked. She was teaching. For the next hour, he watched Sophia patiently help elderly immigrants practice English phrases. She smiled more in those 60 minutes than he'd seen in 8 months of working for him. When a man struggled with pronunciation, she knelt beside his chair and gently corrected him. When a woman looked frustrated, Sophia squeezed her shoulder and encouraged her in Spanish. After class, Sophia unpacked her shopping bags. Groceries, but not for herself. Sandwich supplies, fruit, crackers. She made plates of food for her students, chatting with them as they ate. Marcus stumbled backward, his world tilting. The $500 wire transfer, the early departures, the phone call about needing more money. It all made sense now, but not the way he'd expected. He drove home in a daze. Sophia's joyful face burned into his memory. In his office, he researched the Esperanza Community Center online, a nonprofit serving Seattle's immigrant community. English classes, legal aid, job training, childcare, all run on donations and volunteers. The center's website showed photos of Sophia teaching, organizing food drives, reading to children. In every picture, she glowed with purpose. Marcus found the center's financial reports. They were struggling, operating month to month on small donations. The building needed repairs. Programs were being cut. He thought about Sophia working 3 jobs: his house, a cleaning service downtown, weekend shifts at a grocery store. Also, she could afford to volunteer here every night, feeding people from her own pocket. His phone rang. "David again. Find anything interesting in your spy mission?" Marcus rubbed his face. "I'm an idiot. What happened?" "She's not stealing from me. She's good." "David. Actually good." "What happened?" "She's good. The money she sends home, it's for her mother's medical bills." "The early departures?" "She volunteers at an immigrant center every night." The expensive jewelry she was looking at, probably dreaming like everyone else. Silence on the other end. Then David's gentle voice. "When's the last time you met someone genuinely good?" "I don't think I ever have." The next morning, Marcus found himself timing his coffee break to coincide with Sophia's arrival. She seemed surprised to see him in the kitchen. "Good morning, Mr. Wellington. I'll get out of your way. Actually, could you join me? I'd like to hear about your evening classes." Sophia froze, a dish towel in her hands. "My what?" "Your volunteer work teaching English." Her face went pale. "I don't know what you mean." "Sophia." Marcus sat down, his mug in hand. "I followed you last night." She sank into a chair, looking defeated. "Are you going to fire me?" "Fire you? Why would I fire you because I lied about working late? Because I used my lunch break to buy food for the center instead of eating? Because I've been distracted thinking about my students when I should be focused on your house?" Marcus stared at this woman who thought compassion was a firing offense. "Tell me about them. Your students." Sophia looked up cautiously. "They're mostly elderly. Some have been here for decades, but never learned English properly. Maria is 73 and wants to talk to her doctor without her granddaughter translating. Carlos worked construction for 40 years, but can't read safety signs. They're proud people who just need a chance." As Sophia talked, her face transformed. The quiet, careful housekeeper disappeared, replaced by someone passionate and alive. "The center might close," she continued. "We can barely afford rent. I try to help with supplies when I can, but—" She gestured helplessly. That afternoon, Marcus made an anonymous donation to the Esperanza Community Center, $50,000, enough to keep them running for months. He used a shell company and fake name, ensuring it couldn't be traced back to him. But as he submitted the donation, Marcus realized something had shifted inside him. For the first time in years, his money felt useful. Someone donated $50,000. Sophia burst into the kitchen the next morning, her eyes bright with excitement. "Can you believe it? The center is saved." Marcus looked up from his coffee, hiding his smile. "That's wonderful news. Any idea who the anonymous donor is?" "They just said they believed in our mission." Sophia practically bounced as she unpacked her cleaning supplies. We can fix the heater, buy new textbooks, maybe even start a computer class. Maria cried when I told her. Watching Sophia's joy, Marcus felt something warm unfold in his chest. When was the last time he'd made someone this happy? Over the following weeks, Marcus found himself inventing reasons to be home during Sophia's work hours. He'd emerge from his office needing coffee just as she was dusting the living room. He'd remember urgent emails to send from the kitchen while she prepared his lunch. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. Sophia told him about her thesis on economic inequality, her dreams of becoming a social worker, her homesickness for Honduras. Marcus shared carefully selected stories about his business, his travels, his loneliness in the big house. "Don't you have family?" Sophia asked one November afternoon as she arranged fresh flowers in his dining room. "My parents died when I was 22. Quel accident." Sophia's hand stilled. "I'm sorry. That must have been terrible." "It was, but it taught me to be self-reliant." Marcus paused, then added quietly, "Maybe too self-reliant." "Family isn't just blood," Sophia said gently. "At the center, we're all family. Mrs. Chun brings soup for everyone. Mr. Rodriguez fixes things without being asked. We take care of each other." Marcus envied that sense of belonging. His world consisted of business associates, employees, and people who wanted something from him. Even David, his closest friend, was technically on his payroll. In December, Marcus made another anonymous donation to the center, computers for the new lab Sophia had mentioned. He watched through news reports as the community celebrated, Sophia beaming as she cut the ribbon. "You seem different lately," David observed during their weekly meeting. "Happier. You're smiling more, and you haven't run a background check on anyone in weeks." Marcus deflected with business talk, but David was right. The constant suspicion that had plagued him for years felt less urgent. Sophia's presence in his house brought warmth he hadn't realized he'd been missing. One January morning, Marcus found Sophia at his kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks and papers. "Sorry, Mr. Wellington. I came early to make up time. I have a thesis meeting later." "What's your thesis about?" Sophia's face lit up. "Barriers to social mobility in immigrant communities. I'm researching how language access, job training, and community support can break cycles of poverty." Marcus sat down across from her, genuinely interested. "What have you found?" For the next hour, Sophia explained her research with passion and intelligence that impressed him. She talked about systemic inequalities, about families working multiple jobs but still struggling, about the dignity of people who just needed opportunity. "Most people don't see it," she said. "They see someone cleaning their house or working in a restaurant and assume that's all they're capable of." But Carlos, he was an engineer in El Salvador. Isabella ran her own bakery. They're brilliant people reduced to survival jobs because their credentials don't transfer. Marcus felt a stab of guilt, remembering his own assumptions about Sophia. "I want to change that," she continued. "Create programs that recognize people's skills, help them build on what they already know instead of starting from zero." "That's incredible work, Sophia." She blushed. "It's just research. Probably won't change anything." "Don't say that. You're already changing things at the center." Their eyes met across the table, and Marcus felt something shift between them. Sophia looked away first, gathering her papers. "I should get to work." That afternoon, Marcus made a decision. "Sophia, I'd like to offer you a full-time position. Better salary, health benefits, paid vacation. You'd basically manage the household, coordinate with other staff, handle my schedule, that sort of thing." Sophia stared at him. "That's very generous, but I don't understand. You barely trust me to dust your books." "I trust you," Marcus said, and realized he meant it. "You're intelligent, responsible, and you care about doing things right. The salary would be enough to help your mother and pay for school." Sophia bit her lip. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." But Marcus could see the conflict in her eyes. More money meant security for her family, but it also meant less time for the center, less time for her studies, less time for the work that made her come alive. A week later, Sophia found him in his office. "I've decided about the job offer." Marcus looked up from his computer, heart racing. "I'm grateful, Mr. Wellington. Really, but I can't accept." "Why not?" Sophia took a deep breath. Because I'd be living someone else's dream instead of my own. The center needs me. My studies matter to me. And honestly, she met his eyes, I've fallen in love with someone impossible. Someone who represents everything I want to do with my life. Someone who makes me want to be better, do more, help people. But our worlds are too different. It could never work. Marcus's heart hammered. Sophia was in love with someone else. Someone who inspired her. Someone who shared her values. Someone who wasn't him. For the first time since his parents died, Marcus felt his heart truly break. Marcus spent the weekend in his office, staring at spreadsheets, but seeing nothing. Sophia loved someone else. Someone impossible. Someone who inspired her to help people. Probably another volunteer at the center. Someone young, idealistic, someone who understood her world. Monday morning, Sophia arrived as usual, but the easy warmth between them was gone. Marcus kept their interactions brief and professional. "Good morning," he said without looking up from his newspaper. "Good morning, Mr. Wellington." Her voice was careful, distant. The week crawled by in painful politeness. Marcus buried himself in work, taking calls in his office, eating lunch at his desk. Sophia cleaned around him like a ghost, efficient and invisible. Friday afternoon, she knocked on his office door. "Mr. Wellington, I need to give you my notice." Marcus looked up, his stomach dropping. 2 weeks. "I'm sorry for the short notice, but I need to focus on finishing my thesis. I've been accepted into a graduate program for social work and start my practicum in March." "I see." Marcus kept his voice level. "Congratulations. That's quite an achievement." "Thank you." Sophia fidgeted with her cleaning supplies. "I'll make sure everything is perfect before I go. I can help train my replacement if you'd like." "That won't be necessary." The silence stretched between them. Sophia nodded and turned to leave. "Sophia," she paused at the door. "I'm proud of you. What you're doing, it matters." Her shoulders sagged slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Wellington. That means more than you know." The next 2 weeks were torture. Marcus found himself memorizing Sophia's routines. Knowing each day brought him closer to losing her completely. He helped her prepare for job interviews, writing glowing recommendation letters that felt like love letters he'd never sent. The Seattle Community Services office called. He told her Wednesday of her final week, they want to schedule a second interview. Sophia's face brightened. "Really? That's my dream job, working directly with immigrant families, helping them navigate services." "You'll be perfect for it." Marcus meant it, even as his heart broke a little more. Thursday evening, Sophia stayed late to finish organizing his files. Marcus brought her coffee and found her crying quietly at his kitchen table. "What's wrong?" She wiped her eyes quickly. "Nothing. Just tired." "Sophia, it's stupid," she said. "I'm leaving to pursue my dreams, which is what I wanted, but I'm going to miss this. Our talks, feeling like someone cares about my work." Marcus sat down across from her. "Someone does care. Someone always will." Their eyes met, and for a moment, Marcus thought about telling her everything. About following her that night, about the donations, about how she'd changed his entire worldview, about how he'd fallen in love with her kindness, her passion, her brilliant mind. Instead, he said, "The person you mentioned, the impossible one. Have you told him how you feel?" Sophia shook her head. "What's the point? We're from different worlds. He'd never see me as anything more than." She gestured helplessly. "Someone who cleans houses and comes from nothing." "Sophia, you're not nothing. You're extraordinary." She smiled sadly. "You're kind to say that." Friday arrived too soon. Sophia finished her final tasks and packed her supplies. Marcus had prepared an envelope with her final paycheck and a substantial bonus, enough to cover her mother's medical expenses for a year. "This is too much," Sophia said, staring at the check. "You've been invaluable to me. Consider it a graduation gift." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep in touch. Let me know how you're doing." "Of course." They stood in his entryway, neither wanting to say goodbye. Finally, Sophia stepped forward and hugged him briefly. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Wellington. You've been more than an employer. You've been a friend. Take care of yourself." After she left, Marcus walked through his house. Everything was spotless, perfectly organized, and completely empty. He'd returned to his fortress, but now the walls felt like a prison. Over the next 3 months, Marcus fell back into old patterns. He hired a new housekeeper, an efficient woman named Janet who did excellent work and never lingered for conversation. He threw himself into business, closing deals and making money that felt meaningless. But he couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. He continued his anonymous donations to the Esperanza Community Center, watching their programs expand. He researched Seattle Community Services and felt pride when he learned Sophia had been hired as a social worker specializing in immigrant family services. Through David's discreet inquiries, he learned she'd completed her thesis with honors and was excelling in her new role. She'd moved to a better apartment and was able to bring her mother to Seattle for an extended visit. "She's doing well," David reported over lunch. "By all accounts, she loves her new job." "Good," Marcus said. "That's what she wanted. What about what you want?" Marcus pushed food around his plate. "It doesn't matter what I want. She's not married. Still single." "Marcus, she's moved on. New job, new life. Your ancient history. What if she's happy to see you?" Marcus pulled out a navy suit. "What if she thinks I'm stalking her?" "You won't know unless you go." Across town, Sophia stood in her small apartment bathroom, applying lipstick with shaking hands. The community center's gala felt surreal. 6 months ago, she was volunteering in the evenings after cleaning houses. Tonight, she was receiving an award for her service. "You look beautiful, Mija," her mother said from the doorway. Isabella Morales had arrived from Honduras 2 weeks ago, finally healthy enough to travel after her surgery. "I'm nervous, Mama." "Why?" "You've earned this recognition." Sophia couldn't explain that she kept hoping Marcus would somehow be there. Ridiculous, of course. Why would a tech mogul attend an immigrant community center's fundraiser? "Tell me again about this man you worked for," her mother said, settling on Sophia's bed. "Mama, I've told you 100 times. Humor an old woman. You always smiled when you talked about him." Sophia sighed. "He was kind. Lonely, I think. We talked about my work, my dreams. He made me feel like what I was doing mattered. And you loved him." Sophia met her mother's knowing eyes in the mirror. "It doesn't matter. We were from different worlds. Love doesn't care about worlds." The Esperanza Community Center had been transformed. String lights hung from the ceiling. Tables draped in white linens filled the main room. A small stage was set up for the evening's program. Sophia arrived early to help with last-minute preparations. "There's our guest of honor," called Maria, the elderly woman from Sophia's first English class. At 73, she now volunteered as a translator for newer immigrants. "I can't believe they're giving me an award," Sophia said, adjusting a centerpiece. "You saved this place," said Carlos, the former engineer who now taught basic computer skills. "That anonymous donation came right after you started working here full-time as a volunteer. Coincidence? I think not." Sophia had wondered about the timing herself. The first donation had come right after she'd mentioned the center might close. The second had appeared days after she talked about needing computers. But anonymous donors were common for nonprofits. It was just good timing. Guests began arriving at 6. Sophia mingled, catching up with former students and their families. The room filled with the warm chatter of multiple languages, children running between tables, and a laughter of people celebrating their community. At 7:30, Sophia was greeting a family near the entrance when she saw him. Marcus stood in the doorway, scanning the room. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit and looked as elegant and out of place as she'd expected. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Sophia's breath caught. He was here, actually here. Marcus felt his heart slam against his ribs as Sophia stared at him from across the room. She looked stunning in a simple black dress, her hair pinned up, a genuine smile lighting her face as she talked with families around her. This was her world, warm, inclusive, full of purpose. He didn't belong here, but he couldn't make himself leave. "Mr. Wellington." Marcus turned to find an elderly man approaching with a warm smile. "Carlos Mendez. Sophia has told us so much about you." "She has. Of course. You were very kind to her when she worked for you. She spoke of you often." Before Marcus could respond, the evening's program began. Sophia was called to the stage to receive the Volunteer of the Year award. As she accepted the small crystal plaque, Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. This community saved me as much as I've tried to serve it, Sophia said into the microphone. When I first came to this country, I felt invisible. Here, I learned that everyone has value. Everyone has something to contribute. We also have an anonymous donor to thank, someone whose generosity has allowed us to expand our programs and serve more families. Whoever you are, you've shown us that kindness comes from unexpected places. And sometimes, angels appear when we need them most. Marcus's hands clenched in his lap. She still didn't know. After the program, Marcus stayed in his corner, watching Sophia laugh with families, hug former students, and glow with the confidence of someone who'd found her calling. Several times, she glanced in his direction, but she was always pulled away by well wishes. Finally, as the evening wound down, Sophia approached him. "Mr. Wellington, I can't believe you're here. Congratulations on your award. You deserve the recognition." "Thank you, Sophia. I didn't think charity galas were your thing." "They're not usually, but this cause seemed worth supporting." Before Sophia could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her face brightened. "Manga, how was your doctor appointment?" She switched to Spanish, talking rapidly while Marcus waited. After a few minutes, she hung up, beaming. "The best. My mother's cancer is officially in remission. She's been living with me since her surgery, and today the doctor said she's completely healthy." Sophia's eyes filled with happy tears. "I've been so worried, and now that's wonderful." "Sophia, you must be relieved." "I am, and grateful. An anonymous benefactor helped pay for her treatment. I've been trying to find them to thank them properly. Without that help, I don't know what would have happened." Marcus felt his throat tighten. She was thanking him without knowing it, and he'd never felt more like a coward. "Sophia," he began, then stopped. How could he explain without sounding like he'd been manipulating her life from the shadows? "What is it?" Marcus looked into her warm brown eyes and made a decision that would change everything. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice barely audible over the remaining chatter in the community center. "About the anonymous donor." Sophia tilted her head, confused. "What about them?" Marcus took a deep breath. "It was me. Both donations to the center and for your mother's medical bills." Sophia stared at him, the crystal plaque trembling in her hands. "What? The $50,000 to save the center? The money for your mother's surgery? The computers for the lab? All of it. But how did you even know about?" Sophia's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "You followed me." Marcus nodded, shame flooding his face. "That night you left early, I thought you were stealing from me. I followed you here and saw you teaching your class. I realized how wrong I'd been about everything." Sophia sank into a nearby chair, processing. "You've been watching my life, manipulating it." "No, Sophia, that's not." Her voice rose, causing a few remaining guests to glance over. "You decided what I needed, what my family needed, what this place needed without asking, without telling me." Marcus knelt beside her chair. "You're right. I should have told you. At first, I was ashamed of why I followed you. Then later, I was afraid you'd refuse the help if you knew it came from me." "Of course I would have refused." Sophia stood abruptly. "Do you have any idea how it feels to learn that your independence, your family's health, your community survival, all of it was just some rich man's charity project?" "It wasn't charity," Marcus said desperately. "Sophia, watching you that night, seeing how you lived, how you gave everything to help others, it changed me. For the first time in my life, I understood what real wealth looked like." Sophia paced away from him, then back. "And what was I to you? Some noble poor person who made you feel good about yourself. You were the first person I trusted in 15 years, Marcus said quietly. "You were kindness and intelligence, and everything good I thought had been stripped out of the world. You were what?" Marcus stood, meeting her eyes. "You were the person I fell in love with." Sophia's anger faltered. "Don't I know you love someone else? Someone impossible who inspires you to do good work? I know I'm not that person, but I need you to know that helping you, helping this place, it wasn't about control or charity. It was about love." Sophia stared at him, tears forming in her eyes. "You really don't understand, do you? You are that person, The impossible one I told you about. Marcus felt the world shift. What did you think I was talking about? Someone else. You were the only man in my life, the only one who listened to my dreams, who made me feel like my work mattered. But I convinced myself it was hopeless because you were my employer, because you were wealthy, because I was just the help. Marcus stepped closer. Sophia, I spent months falling in love with someone I thought could never love me back. And all this time, you were already loving me in the only way you knew how. They stood facing each other in the nearly empty community center. Years of misunderstanding finally dissolving. I followed you because I was paranoid and suspicious, Marcus said. But I fell in love with you because you showed me what it means to live with purpose. I thought you saw me as just another employee who might betray you. I saw you as everything I'd lost faith in: goodness, honesty, someone who cared more about others than herself. Sophia reached up and touched his face. We're both idiots. Marcus laughed, the sound rusty from months of unhappiness. Completely so. What do we do now? Marcus took her hands in his. I want to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. Sophia nodded. I don't just want to date you, Sophia. I want to build a life with you, a real partnership. I want to use everything I have, my money, my connections, my resources, to support the work you do, not as charity, but as equals working toward the same goals. Sophia's eyes widened. Marcus, I've learned that money is just a tool. It only matters when it's used to help people. You show me how to use it right. I want you to teach me more. I want to learn from you, work beside you, love you while we make the world a little better. Sophia smiled through her tears. You want to be my partner in crime, fighting poverty and injustice. I want to be your partner in everything. Sophia stood on her toes and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. There's one more thing, Sophia said. My mother wants to meet you. Marcus grinned. Should I be nervous? Terrified. She's already decided you're too skinny and need feeding. As they walked out of the community center hand in hand, Marcus looked back at the photos on the walls. Immigrants learning English, families celebrating graduations, children playing in the after-school program. This place had brought them together, and now it would be part of their shared future. Ready to change the world. Mr. Wellington, Sophia asked, with you, I'm ready for anything. Outside, Seattle's evening lights sparkled like promises. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he belonged. 1 year later, August 2026, the Esperanza Community Center had never looked more beautiful. White roses and baby's breath decorated every surface, and string lights created a canopy of stars above the main hall. Sophia stood at the back of the room in her grandmother's wedding dress, watching the space that had changed her life transform into the setting for her new beginning. You ready, Mija? Her mother asked, adjusting Sophia's veil. More than ready, Mama. Isabella Morales had been living in Seattle for 10 months now. Her health fully restored. Her English dramatically improved thanks to her future son-in-law's patient tutoring. She'd taken one look at Marcus during their first meeting, declared him too skinny and too serious, and immediately set about fixing both problems. He's a good man, Isabella whispered as the music began. Different from what I expected, but good. Sophia smiled, remembering Marcus's first dinner at her apartment. He'd arrived with flowers and nervousness, only to be seated at her tiny kitchen table and subjected to 2 hours of gentle interrogation in rapid-fire Spanish. By the end of the evening, Isabella was teaching him to make pupusas while telling embarrassing stories about Sophia's childhood. The wedding march began, and Sophia walked down the makeshift aisle between folding chairs filled with an unusual mix of guests. Marcus's business associates sat beside her former English students. Tech executives chatted with community organizers. Carlos, now the center's IT director thanks to a program Sophia and Marcus had launched, dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief at the front of the room. Marcus waited in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, his face glowing with happiness. Beside him stood David, who became not just Marcus's best man, but Sophia's good friend, often joining their weekly dinners and community events. Dearly beloved, began Father Martinez, the priest who'd married half the couples in the neighborhood. "We gather today to witness the union of two souls who have found in each other not just love, but purpose." Sophia and Marcus had written their own vows. When Marcus spoke, his voice carried clearly through the packed room. "Sophia, you taught me that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the lives we touch. You showed me that trust isn't weakness, but strength. You proved that love doesn't divide us by our differences, but multiplies our ability to do good. I promise to be your partner in all things, in love, in life, and in the work of making this world more just and kind." Sophia's voice was steady as she replied, "Marcus, you taught me that assumptions can blind us to unexpected blessings. You showed me that vulnerability isn't foolishness, but courage. You proved that two people from different worlds can build a new world together. I promise to be your partner in all things, in dreams realized, in challenges faced, and in the joy of serving something greater than ourselves." When Father Martinez pronounced them husband and wife, the entire community center erupted in cheers. Maria threw rice despite the no rice sign, and the children from the after-school program rushed forward with homemade congratulations cards. During the reception, Sophia and Marcus moved through the crowd together, thanking guests and soaking in the celebration. The Morales Wellington Foundation had officially launched 3 months ago, focusing on immigrant services, educational access, and community development throughout the Pacific Northwest. Sophia served as executive director, while Marcus handled strategic planning and funding, a true partnership that had already impacted thousands of lives. "Remember when you thought I was stealing from you?" Sophia teased as they swayed to their first dance. "Remember when you thought I could never see you as anything more than a help?" Marcus countered. They laughed, spinning slowly as their community celebrated around them. The dance floor filled with other couples, David dancing with Isabella, who'd appointed herself as Spanish tutor, Carlos twirling his granddaughter Maria, and her husband of 50 years moving with practiced grace. Later, as the evening wound down, Sophia found herself standing where it all began, in front of the classroom where she'd taught English that first night Marcus had followed her. The room now bore a plaque, the Sophia Morales Wellington Learning Center, where every voice matters. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Only one," Sophia said, leaning back against his chest. "What's that?" "That it took us so long to figure out we were meant to be partners all along." Marcus kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her hair and the faint aroma of Isabella's cooking that seemed to permanently infuse their lives. Now, they found each other when they were ready. That's all that matters. Through the window, they could see Seattle's skyline twinkling in the distance. The city where a suspicious millionaire had once followed his housekeeper and discovered that the greatest fortune wasn't money, but finding someone who shared your values and multiplied your capacity for love. The next morning, Sophia and Marcus would leave for their honeymoon in Honduras, where Marcus would meet the extended family who'd been sending him care packages and hand-knitted sweaters for months. After that, they'd return to their shared mission, running financial literacy classes for new immigrants, expanding the foundation's reach, and proving every day that love combined with resources could indeed change the world. But tonight, surrounded by the community that had brought them together, Sophia and Marcus simply held each other and marveled at how a story that began with suspicion and fear had become one of trust, partnership, and joy that would last a lifetime. In the distance, David raised a toast to the happy couple. Isabella fussed over the leftover food that needed to be distributed to families. And the Esperanza Community Center continued its work of turning strangers into family, one connection at a time. Some love stories begin with grand gestures or chance encounters. This one began with a millionaire following his maid after work, only to discover that the greatest treasure had been beside him all along, not hidden, but simply waiting for him to open his heart enough to see it.